Do you believe that within just the next 5 years, millions of people will wake up and realize that everything they once called financial stability has slipped away like sand through their fingers? You may think you're safe. You have a stable job, money in the bank, and a house under your name. But imagine this. The money you held yesterday has already lost value this morning. The house you were once proud of is now worth only half as much. The job you devoted a decade to has been replaced by software. This isn't a scene from a science fiction movie. It's a reality that could strike as early as 2025 or 2030, and no one will be spared. If you stay until the end of this video, you'll have in your hands a detailed roadmap, one that will help you not only survive, but thrive in the coming decade of chaos. You'll understand why the wealthy remain calm during crises, while the majority panic and sell off in fear. You'll uncover the mistakes that cause millions to lose everything, and more importantly, how to avoid them. You'll learn how to build a personal financial fortress with 5 solid pillars, how to read cash flow intelligently, and how to create financial immunity for your entire family. The end result? If you apply what you learn, you won't just preserve what you have. You'll seize massive opportunities while the rest of the world drowns in turmoil. Welcome to Bedtime Story Tales. Today, prepare yourself a warm pot of tea, a few blank sheets of paper, and a pen. Sit back comfortably as we embark on a special journey, decoding why the period between 2025 and 2030 is seen as the financial decade of life and death, and more importantly, what you must do to avoid being swept away. Remember, this isn't a video to listen to casually. This is both a warning and a promise. If you learn seriously and act on it, you'll turn crisis into leverage. If you ignore it, a few years from now, you may return here asking the painful question, if only I had known sooner. Before we go deeper, take a moment to hit the subscribe button. Every subscription is motivation for us to keep sharing practical financial knowledge to help you and your family stay strong in any storm. Now, think carefully and answer honestly. If tomorrow morning the global economy collapses and assets drop by 40%, what will you do? A. Sit and wait for things to go back to normal, believing it will all be fine. B. Proactively restructure your finances, cut necessary losses, and seek new opportunities in the crisis. Leave your answer, A or B, in the comments. I want to know where you stand in your own financial journey. In the previous part, you saw the grim but undeniable picture of 2025-2030, a financial survival period where those who fail to prepare will pay the price with their lives. But just seeing the big picture isn't enough. The real danger doesn't lie in external events, but in the internal mistakes people keep repeating. These mistakes don't come from a lack of intelligence or laziness, but from illusions, deeply rooted false beliefs. If you don't identify and dismantle them, they'll become the very weights that drag you down when crisis hits. Imagine a 40-year-old man who's worked hard for 20 years believing he's safe. He has savings, a mortgaged house, and some money set aside for his children's education. Then, in just 1 year, interest rates double, his home value crashes, and inflation erodes his cash every day. What he thought was solid turns out to be sand. His downfall wasn't because the market collapsed. It was because he believed it never would. This is the shared tragedy of millions in every financial crisis. The biggest mistake humans make is letting emotion take the lead. People buy because they fear missing out, because everyone else is buying, or because they think it can't fail. Young families pour their savings into property bubbles, believing land prices always rise. Mothers rush to buy gold when prices spike, only to hold losses for years. Many men throw money into stocks or cryptocurrencies they don't understand, all from the same fear, the fear of being left behind. Yet that very fear is what pushes them over the edge. A subtler but more dangerous mistake is the belief that the government will save them. Many rely on policies, assuming there will always be an invisible hand to rescue the market. But history shows, when the entire economy slides, governments may stabilize the macro picture, yet individuals and families can still lose everything without their own defenses. This passive belief makes people lazy in preparation, forgetting that personal finance is a responsibility that cannot be outsourced. Another common misconception is the false sense of safety. People think keeping money in the bank is the safest option, but they forget inflation is a silent thief, draining purchasing power every day without leaving a trace. 1 million dong today could be worth only 700,000 in 2 years. That means if you stay idle, you're unknowingly making yourself poorer. What people call safety is often just a slow financial death. Equally dangerous is the habit of wanting to get rich quickly without learning. Many chase magical investment schemes, double your money in 3 months, yet can't spend a few days learning to read a basic financial statement or manage cash flow. They trust rumors over data, promises over principles. When they lose money, they blame the market, brokers, or bad luck, but rarely admit the root cause, their own ignorance. Another deadly psychological trap is blind optimism. When the market drops, they say, it'll come back. When assets fall, they insist, it can't drop further. But finance isn't driven by belief. It's driven by probability, risk, and cash flow. The rich prepare for the worst while the poor hope for miracles. And when the miracle doesn't come, the price is total collapse. Knowing when to cut losses is a skill most people refuse to learn. Small losses are acceptable, but many cling to hope as their assets lose value, until both capital and opportunity vanish. Like a sinking ship, they refuse to patch small holes, and when the water floods in, it's too late to save it. Ask yourself, do you know exactly how much cash you have? How much debt? How much in assets? Do you have a 3-year financial strategy? If the answer is silence, you're walking into a battlefield without a map, and that's a deadly mistake. Finally, the most widespread illusion, it won't affect me. People watch the stock market crash and say, I don't invest. They see gold prices swing and think, I'll be fine. Yet they're shocked when their company lays off staff. When living costs double, when their money no longer covers their old lifestyle. No one escapes the wave of crisis. Only 2 groups survive. Those who prepare well, and those who get swept away. These mistakes aren't new. They repeat because people forget easily and always think, I'll be different. But no one is. Only by honestly confronting these financial blind spots and changing, now can you hope not only to keep what you have, but to rise when crisis strikes. That's why the next part won't stop at pointing out mistakes. It will guide you into the depths of financial thinking, the only weapon that can turn danger into opportunity. We've faced the deadly financial traps people often fall into, those unseen currents beneath the surface, seemingly harmless but powerful enough to sink an entire ship with one wrong move. Avoiding mistakes isn't enough. You might dodge one fall, but if you don't change your mindset, another is waiting ahead. That's why we must talk about the strongest weapon in any crisis: financial mindset. Imagine 2 friends, same age, same starting point, same salary 10 years ago. The first lives on autopilot, spends what he earns, saves a little but never learns. The second, though no more talented, sets aside a small amount each month to invest in knowledge, reads finance books, learns new skills, joins money management classes. When the crisis hits, the first panics, income cut, savings dwindling. The second stays calm. He knows his cash flow, has an emergency fund, and has already prepared for the worst. 2 people, 1 storm, 2 very different outcomes. All because of one thing: mindset. A sound financial mindset isn't about getting rich fast. It's about seeing beyond the present. It's like holding a compass. You can't control the storm, but you can know where the shore is. The survival-minded person cuts expenses in fear and waits for better days. The wealth-minded person also cuts expenses, but to redirect resources toward opportunities that can multiply when the market recovers. The same action, different destination. During crises, many people panic sell valuable assets at rock-bottom prices. They dump strong company stocks out of fear, while long-term investors quietly buy them. Years later, when the market rebounds, the second group multiplies their wealth, while the first lives in regret. This is proof. Mindset doesn't just shape actions, it shapes destiny. Another aspect of financial mindset is risk management. Most people ask, how can I make money fast? The truly wealthy ask, how can I protect my capital when everything falls apart? Risk management means accepting that you can't win every game, but you can limit losses so you always have enough to play the next one. It's like a mountain climber who never climbs without a safety rope. He knows that falling is always a possibility, but because he's prepared, the fall doesn't end his journey. It becomes a lesson for the next climb. Financial thinking also means being able to recognize true value. In a society where appearances are glorified, many people get swept into the race of showing off. flashy cars, the newest phones, and spending just to prove their worth. But those with deep financial wisdom understand that real value isn't what you display, but what you quietly accumulate. A rental property that generates steady income is far more valuable than a shiny car that only drains your wallet. A skills course that multiplies your income many times over is worth more than a lavish party that leaves you with a bill. When you can distinguish between real and fake value, you'll make choices different from the crowd. And those choices will define your path. Perhaps the most important aspect of financial thinking is discipline. Knowledge without action is only theory. Discipline is the bridge that connects understanding to results. It's about consistently tracking every small expense. It's about setting aside a portion of your income for investment, even if the amount seems insignificant at first. It's about saying no to temporary pleasures to stay true to long-term goals. Discipline is what sets you apart, and it's the foundation of lasting wealth. Finally, financial thinking means continuous learning. The world changes every day. Safe investments today may disappear tomorrow. The skills valuable now could become obsolete in a few years. Only those who make lifelong learning a habit can adapt. Remember, in every crisis, opportunities don't vanish. They merely shift into the hands of those who are prepared and forward-thinking. Looking back on everything we've discussed, it's clear that mistakes cause loss, but mindset determines what remains after the crisis. If you develop a strong financial mindset, you won't just survive. You'll rise while others are still struggling to stay afloat. That's why, in the next part, we'll dive into the 5 pillars for building your personal financial fortress, the solid foundation that turns mindset into action. Financial thinking is the compass that guides you through a stormy sea. But a compass alone isn't enough. If your financial ship has weak hulls and unstable masts, one strong gust can shatter it. That's why we need to build a solid foundation. The structural pillars that keep your financial house standing no matter how violently the market shakes. These 5 pillars aren't just abstract principles. They are the difference between a fragile life and a free one. Imagine a man in his early 30s with a small family and a stable job earning a decent income. He believes that working hard and collecting his monthly paycheck is enough. But one day his company faces a crisis. Projects are canceled and he's laid off. Without an emergency fund, he's forced to sell his only car to make ends meet. Without a secondary income, his family must borrow to survive. Without a safe investment plan, the small amount he trusted to a friend disappears without a trace. In the end, he realizes he never lacked money. He lacked a foundation. The 5 pillars of personal finance are the answer to prevent that bitter scenario. The first pillar, the emergency fund. It's like the life vest you wear on a ship. You may never need it, but if a storm hits, it's what keeps you from drowning. The emergency fund isn't for profit. It's there so you don't panic when unexpected trouble strikes. When a loved one falls ill, when your job is suddenly interrupted, when expenses surge, you'll have a safety net. And only when fear no longer grips your mind can you make wise decisions. The second pillar, multiple income streams. In this age, relying on a single source of income is like hanging your life on a fragile thread. You may be a skilled employee or a respected entrepreneur, but if all your money comes from one place, you'll tremble every time that place shakes. Think of the woman who started a small online store as a side job. It began as a way to earn a few extra dollars each month, but when her company cut wages, that side income became her lifeline. Diversification doesn't always make you rich overnight, but it brings stability, the power to stand firm amid turbulence. The third pillar, smart and safe investing. Some think investing is a risky game for gamblers, but in truth, investing is the art of managing risk, planting small seeds and patiently waiting for them to grow. A friend of mine invested a tiny amount monthly in an index fund, while others rushed into hot speculative markets. 10 years later, when crisis struck and many lost everything, he had built enough savings to fund his dream startup. Smart investing doesn't make you a millionaire overnight, but it gives you freedom after years of consistency. The fourth pillar, cash flow management. Many believe they're poor because their income is low, but in reality they're poor because they don't know where their money goes. A few coffees a day, small impulsive buys, they seem minor but add up to a fortune wasted. A young person who tracks expenses and plans spending will always have capital to reinvest, while someone earning twice as much but spending unconsciously can still drown in debt. Managing cash flow isn't stinginess, it's taking control of your destiny. The fifth pillar, asset protection. This is the wall that prevents your hard-earned wealth from disappearing in one fierce storm. Protecting assets means diversifying, not putting all your eggs in one basket. It means understanding the real purpose of insurance. It means never entrusting all your money to anyone, no matter how close they are. Because assets aren't just money, they're your results, your trust, your family's security. If you don't protect them, who will? These 5 pillars are like 5 sturdy beams supporting a bridge across a canyon. Without one, the bridge shakes. Without several, you can't cross. But once all are firm, you can move forward confidently. No matter how rough the current below, from here, we move to a new perspective. Career and industry choices that not only maintain your financial pillars, but open new doors in a rapidly changing world. In the previous section, we built the 5 pillars of personal finance, a strong foundation for individuals to stand against storms. But even the strongest foundation must rest on solid ground. If you build on unstable soil, choosing a profession that's fading away, the whole structure can collapse any time. That's why the next step is to look directly at the career landscape and future industry trends, especially for 2025-2030, a period of unprecedented disruption and transformation. Imagine a young graduate full of enthusiasm who chooses a repetitive, manual job. For the first few years, everything seems stable, until a new technological revolution replaces that role with automation. He's forced to start over while his peers move ahead. That's the reality unfolding right now. Many jobs don't vanish overnight. They shrink bit by bit, and by the time you notice, it's too late to adapt. On the other hand, those who pivot early into emerging fields build strong positions within a few years, while others are still struggling to adjust. Career trends aren't abstract. They reveal themselves through how people consume, how businesses operate, and how technology infiltrates every corner of life. Outdated industries that rely on rigid bureaucracy are fading away, while fields tied to creativity, technology, health, and security are opening golden opportunities. A clear example is the rise of the digital content economy. With just a smartphone and a unique perspective, someone can build a community of hundreds of thousands of followers. But this isn't just about making videos or posting online. It's an entire industry where those who combine knowledge, skill, and persistence can generate sustainable income, even surpassing traditional careers. Or consider the health and wellness sector. As populations age and lifestyle-related diseases rise, people are shifting focus from treatment to prevention. This creates opportunities for nutritionists, fitness coaches, mental health advisors, and lifestyle designers. Someone who teaches yoga online, builds science-based diet programs, or shares stress management methods can reach thousands globally. Health isn't just a need, it's survival, and this industry will never go out of date. Beyond technology and health, new frontiers are emerging in data security, environmental sustainability, and clean energy. The more the world depends on data, the more valuable those who protect it become. The more climate change worsens, the more in demand green innovators will be. You might never have imagined that a renewable energy specialist or a cybersecurity analyst would become dream jobs. But that's the reality fast approaching. Of course, not everyone needs to become a tech expert or scientist. The key is to stay adaptable, to keep learning and shifting when your industry starts shrinking. A banker can become a financial data analyst. A traditional teacher can become an online course creator. A retail entrepreneur can expand through e-commerce platforms. The key isn't to throw away the old, it's to upgrade yourself to fit the new flow. If in the previous section we likened the 5 pillars of finance to a solid building, then career trends are the land on which that building stands. Choose the right land, and your house will stand firm for decades. Choose the wrong land, and all your efforts may turn to dust after just one upheaval. And the most important thing is, you cannot wait for society to change and then try to catch up. You must go ahead, preparing yourself with the skills, mindset, and plans for transition starting today. In the next part, we will delve into the formula for building sustainable income, a strategy that allows you to stop depending on the ups and downs of the economy, to feel confident that no matter how the market shifts, you can still stand firm and move forward step by step. In the previous section, we looked at the bigger picture of career and industry trends for the period 2025-2030. This is when massive shifts will occur. Those who cling to the old ways will gradually fall behind, while those who seize new trends will rise to lead. But there's another truth just as important. No matter what industry you're in, if your entire life depends on a single source of income, you will always live in anxiety. One small disruption can throw you from stability into crisis. Therefore, the key is not just choosing the right field, but building a sustainable income system that can stand firm amid any storm. Sustainable income is not about promises of quick wealth. It's about the ability to generate consistent long-term cash flows with minimal dependence on your direct labor. Like a garden, no one plants today and harvests tomorrow. But if you patiently nurture it day by day, a year or 5 years later, that garden will yield fruit continuously. When you have sustainable income, you no longer wake up fearing layoffs or unexpected price spikes. You know you have underground streams feeding your finances even when the surface seems dry. Imagine an office worker with a steady salary. Each month, beyond spending, he sets aside a small portion for long-term projects. At first, he writes a small handbook from his own work experience and sells it online. Not much, just a few orders at first. But over time, that handbook becomes an asset-generating revenue even while he sleeps. Later, he learns to create small financial products, gradually building an investment portfolio. After several years, he has 3 or 4 income streams. When his company restructures and colleagues panic, he stays calm thanks to the system he quietly built. The point is, sustainable income isn't just for those with big capital. It begins with your own skills, knowledge, and experiences. A carpenter can record tutorials and sell them to DIY enthusiasts. A mother can turn parenting experience into short online courses. A student can translate documents, write content, and slowly build a steady side income. It all starts with one question. What value do I have that I can share with others and turn into a product? Another key to sustainable income is understanding the power of time. Money sitting idle in your account loses value to inflation, but money invested long-term multiplies. The issue isn't how much capital you have, it's how consistently you commit. Small, regular savings each month can become the foundation of financial freedom later. But if you only wait for a big chance, you'll always depend on luck. Sustainable income is the choice of those who lay bricks one by one, instead of hoping for miracles. More importantly, it brings mental freedom. When you know you're not entirely tied to one job, you dare to choose, to reject what no longer serves you. You can spend more time with family, or explore new fields without the fear of unemployment. That's the deepest value: freedom, control, and peace of mind. If the 5 pillars of personal finance are a fortress, sustainable income is the water source that keeps it alive. Without it, your fortress will dry up when times change. But with it, you can rest assured that even when storms hit, the flow continues, carrying you and your family through hard times. And in the next section, we'll embark on an important journey, learning how to respond to crises, preparing worst-case scenarios so we're never caught off guard. Because the truth is, crises never announce themselves, and only those who are ready will survive. In the previous section, we discussed building sustainable income, creating stable streams to reduce dependence on economic fluctuations. But one undeniable fact remains: no matter how well you prepare, crisis will still come, suddenly and fiercely. It may knock when you feel safest, when work is steady, investments are thriving, or your family is enjoying peaceful days. The question isn't if a crisis will come, but whether you're ready for it. To be ready, we must learn to build scenarios for worst-case situations starting today. Scenario planning isn't pessimism. It's realism and responsibility for your own life. The survivors are not the strongest or richest, but those who have envisioned possible shocks and prepared ways to minimize losses. Like a wise general who studies the battlefield before war. If the enemy attacks from the east, where will the army retreat? If food runs out, what's the backup source? If allies betray, what's the rescue plan? Without that map, even the bravest warrior will soon fall. Imagine working at a large company. Everything seems safe until one morning, a layoff notice arrives. You're on the list. No salary, no insurance, no stability. If you've never planned for job loss, panic will take over. You might rush into debt or accept any job just to survive. But if you've asked yourself, what if I lose my job tomorrow? You'd already have an emergency fund covering months of expenses, a ready resume, a professional network to help, and even a side gig to lean on. The shock still hurts, but it's no longer the end, just a bend in the road. Another example. Interest rates suddenly spike while you carry heavy loans. For the unprepared, it's a flood sweeping through an unfortified house. But if you've asked, what if rates rise by a few %? You'd already capped your debt ratio, renegotiated terms, or been ready to sell non-essential assets to protect your core. A crisis loses its power when you've prepared to lighten the load. Investment crashes tell the same story. Many pour all their money into one channel and lose everything when it collapses. But those with scenarios keep cash reserves, diversify risk, and are mentally ready to cut losses. They know keeping 70% to rebuild is better than clinging to hope until losing all. Scenario planning doesn't make you a fortune teller. It makes you a strategist who adapts. Another key to surviving crisis is emotional control. Crises are not only financial but psychological battles. The unprepared panic and make poor decisions in dark moments. The prepared stay calm. They know losing a job isn't losing their worth. They pause, breathe, reassess, and act, and that composure is the strongest weapon. Scenarios don't need to be complex. Just ask simple questions. If my main income disappears tomorrow, how long can I survive? If my investments drop by half, will I hold or sell? If a family member needs costly treatment, where will I find the funds? Such questions force you to face reality and plan concrete actions. Write them down, discuss them with family, and review regularly. Crises evolve fast, and your plan must evolve too. Crisis is everyone's enemy, but how we face it defines our outcome. Some drown, some barely survive, and some rise stronger. The difference lies not in circumstance, but in preparation. When you have a plan, you stop living in vague fear. You live with confidence and control. And from that foundation, in the next part, we'll learn how to read the market. A vital skill not only to defend against crises, but to attack at the right time and place. We've learned how to respond to crises through scenario planning, so we're not passive when trouble comes. But defense alone isn't enough. Finance is like a long chess game. Those who only defend stay stuck. Those who observe and act wisely seize opportunities to advance. To do that, you need a critical survival skill: reading the market and spotting opportunities. The market never speaks clearly. It doesn't hang a sign saying buy today or sell tomorrow. The market is a living entity, whispering through numbers, showing traces through cash flow, and revealing moods through crowd emotions. The problem is, most people don't listen. They chase the noise. That's why many buy at the peak and sell at the bottom, while a few quietly move early, accumulating when others ignore and cashing out when the crowd goes wild. Imagine a farmer reading the sky to predict rain. He doesn't have modern equipment, but through the color of the clouds, the humidity, and the smell of the soil, he knows when to sow seeds and when to harvest. Reading the market is similar. You don't need to become a macroeconomics expert, but you must train yourself to observe, connect signals, and develop a sense for the flow. When money suddenly leaves the banks and flows into gold, that's a sign that confidence in fiat currency is weakening. When the stock market rises but liquidity drops, it can be an early warning of a coming downturn. A smart investor doesn't try to predict every day or every hour. They focus on recognizing cycles. Every market moves through the same phases: quiet accumulation, steady growth, widespread excitement, then distribution and decline. Those who know where they stand in the cycle make far better decisions than the crowd. Wise investors buy when the market is quiet and few people care, and leave when the news headlines scream once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. An interesting truth is that crowd psychology always leaves traces. When you search online about an asset that's skyrocketing, when forums are flooded with questions like, "Should I buy now?" that's often the moment when risk is highest. Conversely, when people mock, despair, or even curse a certain asset, that may be the moment opportunity flickers for those patient enough to observe. A familiar saying in investing goes, "Be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy." Reading the market means reading the heartbeat of the crowd, not letting yourself be swept away by collective excitement or fear. There's a thought-provoking story about an ordinary man, a schoolteacher. Instead of throwing his money into short-term races, he quietly recorded daily market movements like a journal. After several years, he noticed a pattern. Every time the media talked excessively about real estate, prices were already at dangerous levels. And each time bank stocks were harshly criticized, buying opportunities appeared. Thanks to that simple habit, he built solid investments without ever becoming a financial expert. The lesson: persistent observation plus the ability to connect data can turn an ordinary person into a smart investor. Reading the market also means filtering information. In today's information storm, you can easily feel overwhelmed. Too many experts, too many forecasts, too many conflicting opinions. The skilled investor isn't the one who listens to everything, but the one who selects a few reliable indicators and tracks them consistently. Those might be inflation rates, unemployment figures, or simply the trading volume of a certain asset. What matters is not how much data you have, but whether you understand what that data is telling you, and whether you act consistently on it. Finally, seizing opportunity is the step that turns observation into results. Opportunities in finance rarely come in bright daylight. They appear in darkness, when most people are trembling in fear. But opportunity doesn't last forever. It's like a door that opens only briefly. If you've trained yourself to read the market, you'll recognize the signal earlier than others. And while the crowd is still hesitating, you've already stepped through that door. Reading the market doesn't help you avoid all mistakes, but it gives you a one-step advantage, and just one step ahead can make all the difference. But if only you stand firm while your family, those you love most, collapses under crisis, can you truly be at peace? Strong personal finance is essential, but true safety comes from building financial immunity for your entire family. Because a family is like a living organism. If one part is hurt, the whole body suffers. Family financial immunity isn't just about having money. It's about combining knowledge, discipline, and shared agreement among all members. You might be great at earning, but if your spouse spends recklessly, your children grow up without understanding the value of money. And your parents have no retirement fund. Your efforts are like building castles on sand. Conversely, when every member understands and shares a sound financial mindset, the family becomes a united fortress that stands firm in any storm. Imagine a 3-generation family under one roof. The father is the main breadwinner. The mother stays at home, 2 kids are in school, and the grandparents are retired. Then suddenly the father loses his job. If the family has no emergency fund, no insurance, no backup plan, everything collapses fast. But if they had discussed beforehand, set aside at least 6 months of expenses, maintained health and life insurance, and earned a little extra from renting out a spare room, the shock would be far less devastating. That's financial immunity, not eliminating risk, but having the strength to withstand and recover quickly. Financial education within the family is also key. Many parents out of love avoid talking about money, believing it's an adult burden, but that silence leaves the next generation stepping into life financially illiterate. Teaching children about money isn't forcing responsibility too early. It's planting seeds of awareness. When a child learns to divide their allowance into 3 jars, spend, save, and give, they're learning one of life's most valuable lessons. When they understand that money isn't always available, and every dollar carries responsibility, they grow up independent and appreciative of hard work. Family financial immunity also lies in setting shared goals and committing together. A family might sit down and write milestones: change the car in 2 years, buy a house in 5 years, build a college fund in 10 years. These goals serve as both compass and motivation. When someone is tempted to overspend, the shared goal becomes a reminder. When unexpected income appears, everyone knows how to allocate it wisely instead of wasting it. And when it comes to financial immunity, legal and asset protection cannot be ignored. A clear contract, a transparent will, or a written agreement among family members can prevent disputes that might destroy relationships later. Money doesn't corrupt people, it merely reveals character. So legal preparation is also emotional protection, preserving love from being shattered by conflict over wealth. Finally, let's talk about the mindset of the wealthy in crisis. The wealthy aren't necessarily those with more money, but those with better control. They always have a plan B. They stay calm, never decide in panic. They buy time by planning early, so when crisis hits, they don't have to run in fear. They treat money as a tool, not a master. They're willing to give up small profits to protect their capital, because they know that in the long game, survival itself is the greatest victory. If you want your family to be truly safe, start today. Talk with your loved ones about financial plans. Build an emergency fund. Buy suitable insurance. Track expenses. Set shared goals. Teach your children about money. These aren't just ways to protect your wallet. They're ways to protect happiness, peace in your family's future. When everyone shares the same mindset and discipline, external crises become just a test, unable to break your inner unity. That's the highest level of financial freedom, not just individual independence, but collective stability. A state where you know, no matter what happens, you'll all stand strong together. Throughout this journey, we've explored the key pieces of the personal finance puzzle in the volatile 2025-2030 era, from recognizing global shifts and looming economic storms, to avoiding fatal mistakes, to building the right financial mindset and the 5 pillars of stability. Then we expanded outward, identifying career trends, building sustainable income, planning for crises, reading the market, and finally reaching the ultimate level, family financial immunity. Each part is not separate, but a link in one complete system. When you hold that system in your hands, fear disappears. The greatest truth is this: financial freedom is not luck. It's the result of preparation, discipline, and long-term thinking. Crises can strike any time, but they're not the end. They're tests that separate those who drift from those who understand the rules of money. If you're the kind who looks ahead, prepares backups, learns continuously, and dares to act, crises will become springboards, not sinkholes. The core lesson: never hand your financial destiny to luck or external protection. Stand on your own. Build from the ground up. Your emergency fund, multiple income streams, spending discipline, and long-term investments. See money not as static numbers, but as a flow to be guided. When you master that flow, you master your life. And to start now, you don't need something grand, just small, deliberate steps. Sit with your family today. List the expenses to cut, open a separate emergency account, learn a new skill for side income, or simply start tracking every dollar in and out. That's where real change begins. These small but consistent actions will accumulate into a great force, and it is that very force that will lead you to the stability you've always desired. If you found this content helpful, please leave a like and a comment to share your thoughts or reflections. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button for bedtime story tales. Your support is the motivation that drives us to continue creating meaningful content, helping you and your family not only survive but thrive no matter the circumstances.